Well, hello everybody. I really wanted to do this in landscape, but couldn't make it work. So anyway, this will be better for everybody watching on their phones. Anyway, maybe. So I don't. We don't have a regular video this week. Usually they come out on Fridays, Friday or Saturday, and we didn't have a regular video last week, so that's a bummer. But there are more coming. We just got real busy, Bo and I. So I decided to do the stream, which I've never done a stream before, instead. And I couldn't decide what to work on for a while, so I just picked some bolt jaw tongs. That's something I need. I need a set of 1/4 inch. I also need a set of 5/8. So I'll probably make the 1/4 inch. But we'll do more talking than anything. So, as usual. But anyway, I'm going to be working on these songs. Y'all holler out with any questions. And I will try to keep up with them and answer them as we go. So, like I said, I've never done this before. Still figuring it out. There we go. I'm trying to figure out how to keep the chat up on my end. Y'all let me know if I need to adjust the camera at all, or if there are any problems with the stream. If you have the chat up, you may not be able to see the anvil, but if I point it down at the anvil, you won't be able to see my face, which maybe not a bad thing, but we'll point it down a little bit more, try to make room for comments. So my stock is, so for this style of tong, I really like kind of an industrial style V-bit bolt jaw tong for a lot of things. And here I'll show you a pair I made. These are fairly similar to what I'm going to be making. And normally when forging box jaw tongs, flat bit tongs, tongs like that, then I will start with 3/4 inch square stock, 3/4 or 5/8, depending on how heavy I want the tongs to be, and yeah, I'll use that, and I'll show you the difference here. Basically, what I'm talking about is when you're making a style of tongs that has not just this set down here and here, but it also has this set down here. Then I find it better to use square or round stock. But if you're making this style of tong, you can see there's no like step over. I don't know how to say that, but anyway, basically this style of tongs, I think the fastest way to make them would be out of flat stock. But you need flat stock that's heavy enough to kind of work down to what you need. You're going to get some, when you make this corner right here, it's going to thin the outside of the corner, which isn't necessarily a problem, but it is going to thin the outside of that corner. And when you punch the hole for the rivet, there'll be a little bit of suck. And so if you want to be able to dress all of that out, then you need to start with a flat stock that's a bit thicker than you need for this area. We call it the boss on tongs like this. I don't know if it's really the appropriate name for this. Now some people would fuss about how sharp this inside corner is, because yeah, a sharp corner can be a stress riser and can create cold shuts. But if you think about it, these sharp corners are always in compression. When you're holding on to something and you're squeezing on the reins, that sharp corner is in compression. So it's just never an issue stress-wise. And I really like to have a little bit of gap in there so that the tongs will sit nicely in a tong rack and the reins won't just like splay way out. So anyway, the boys are playing with the other anvil. I jokingly call that thigh gap. They need to have a little bit of thigh gap. So, But I don't have, unfortunately, I don't have any appropriate flat stock to work with today. So I'm going to be stuck using round stock. And like I said, while I would usually use 3/4 inch square for a standard size pair of tongs like this, I don't need quite that much mass for these. So I'm going to go with 3/4 round. Has less mass. So the first thing I've got to do is flatten it out into my flat stock. So we'll get started with that. The metal's in the fire. It's not quite hot enough. Let me see if I can move this. Move this to be to get the fire to. Yeah, here we go. Maybe this will work. Scoot this over just a hair. Oh, that's wiggly. All right, y'all let me know if I don't have the phone just right or if the weather conditions aren't just right. Sometimes service can be bad in the shop. So usually the best bet is to get as close to the window as I can. So I've moved a little further away from the window. So internet may not be the best. Y'all let me know if it's a problem. But I will, eventually someday I'll get me a booster to put here in the shop so that my connection will be better. Save me some time and headache. And get better quality pictures. So, like I said, it's hot, but not quite hot enough. I'm gonna get her hot, and then we'll flatten it out into our flat stock. Hey boys, not while I'm talking, okay? That's a bit too loud. Hey Alan, I need some buckets of coal, son. Can you go fill up my coal buckets? My small buckets. They're both right here. So my chat box disappeared again. Let me see. All messages are visible. Here we go. Howdy David. Val's Forge. Bar Run Forge. What's my favorite tool to forge? I don't have just favorite tool to forge because here, I need to keep that shovel. Y'all have another shovel, don't you? You can just use the buckets to scoop with. I don't have a favorite tool to forge. Basically, any tool that turns out and does the job well that I intended for, that's my favorite tool at the time. I mean, whether I'm making a tool, woodworking or blacksmithing tool for somebody else, or I'm making a tool for myself, any tool that works good is just extremely satisfying to me to make. So, yeah, whatever tool I'm making that turns out. I don't understand why the chat box won't stay up. That's really weird, but oh well. It keeps disappearing. The comments disappear on me, but whatever. So unless I'm watching and see a comment pop up, I'll have to check for comments. Like I said, never done this YouTube live thing before. My coal getters disappeared on me. All right, this is hot. Also, tong making is a perfect project to do with someone else, with a helper, so you can double strike. But I don't have that luxury today. So I'm going to flatten this down to a fat 3/8, or maybe about 3/8 thick. All right, I'm gonna do a little bit more back here. What do we got? check the comments again. All right, I'll quit wiggling the phone. Take another heat. There's no sense in overworking yourself. So keep it hot. Keep it real hot. Mild steel, I like to for not all but most heats, I like to get it almost sparking, so almost white hot. And that's a really good habit to be in when you go to work wrought iron, because wrought iron can be real bad about delaminating, cracking, coming apart on you. And the general rule of thumb is when you're working wrought iron, if you're doing any major movement, if you're actually forging it, it should be at a welding heat. So it should literally be like white hot, couple of sparks here and there, and a wet looking surface. And if it's not that hot, you shouldn't forge it. Alright, flatten out a little bit more of this. I'm not getting real picky about how exact this 3/8 is. I just want it close. I want it all about the same. I'm shooting for a little bit lighter pair of tongs here because I'm actually shooting to make a pair that fits 1/4 inch stock. And so they really don't need to be as heavy as full-size tongs. Just squared up the edges a little bit. Smooth it out. Probably shouldn't get crazy about smoothing since I'm fixing to mess it all up. But there's what we've got. So 3/4 round, and it made about 3/8 thick. It's now a heavy 3/8, almost 7/16. And it's about 7/8 wide. So, the next thing we're going to do is we're going to set down for the bit. Actually, I might. This was a hot cut end, so it's rather ragged. So I'm going to square that up just a little bit, probably unnecessary, but I'm gonna upset that just a little because I want to. This would be quicker with a helper, and if I was working with a helper, not only would the forging, because this is some fairly heavy forging, not only would the forging be faster, but I'd also have him tending the fire and heating another piece up while I'm working the first piece, and that takes a little bit of, because the amount of time doesn't always equal out. Like, you know, I may be forging at the anvil, but not long enough to get another piece hot. But a good helper would be able to manage the fire, get another piece hot, and hold it at heat without burning it until I'm ready for it. All right, so we're going to upset this end a little bit. Whoa, that's sparky. Got it a little too hot. Makes me feel even better that I got my glasses finally. All right, clean that up a little bit. Nothing drastic. All right. Now, I probably could do the next step without reheating, but again, there's no sense in working too hard, so we'll get it hotter. My arm will thank me for it. So what I'm doing here, and these tongs are not going to be the same as these, and that's on purpose. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to isolate a section on the end of the bar, do a set down, and isolate a section for the, I call it the flag, because it looks like a flag when you're done with it. That's going to be split into the V bit. But I've never made this style of tongs. I've only made a couple of pairs. I've never made them smaller than 1/2 inch. So it's going to be interesting. I'm going to have to like watch myself as I go. And it's going to be interesting to make tongs that are for 1/4 inch stock. They're going to be that light. And the few pairs of these I've made, most of them, I've looked at them when I was done, like these, and was like, yeah, this section in here could be a little heavier. But this pair, I know, so that's like something I've been telling myself, is I need to make the bits heavier. I need to make the bits heavier. But on these, it's more likely that they're going to be too heavy. They're unnecessarily heavy for the size stock they're going to be made for. All right, so here's what we're going to do. We're gonna set down about a square of material. So the bar is about 7/8 wide. So I've come about 7/8 back from the end. And I'm gonna set that down. And actually I should have done that. I was using a sharp corner. I probably should have done that over a more rounded corner, because I'm gonna turn that and do an upset corner, but that's okay. So that's the next step. And if I hadn't been talking, I could do more work in that heat, but we're gonna go back in the fire. Get it real good and hot. And I'm going to put in an anvil block, or a hardy block. This hardy block has 2 edges that are fairly sharp and 2 edges that are fairly rounded. Put that in. Actually, I probably don't even need that. I don't know what I'm thinking. Yeah, I won't need that, because I'm not going to do a double set down on these. Alright, so we're going to quench off the very end a little bit. And now I'm going to turn it over like that and hammer that back down into itself. This is a form of upset corner. You need plenty of heat for this. And you can't, it's hard to be too aggressive here. So that's what we're going for. And this is what will get split. This side will get split for the gripping surface. All right, so now we're gonna draw the neck, this portion back a little bit. Sorry, this portion, we're gonna draw this out a little more, taper it down. So let me talk a little bit about why I love this style of tongs. I've had them, let's see, here's an old pair. So you can see on this old pair, that they actually did do like a double set down. So they set down here and they set down here for the boss. But I've found that to be just totally unnecessary and overcomplicating the making of the tongs. So I make mine this way. They literally are just a flat bar with a corner, a sharp corner. And that's made with a combination of the vise and don't get me distracted of talking about hammers. We're talking about tongs. No, I'm just kidding. We'll talk about that. So that sharp corner is made with a combination of the vise and upsetting. So anyway, you can see there's no need for an upset. And if you're trying to make tongs as light as possible, when you go to punch for your rivet hole, you can do a small slot punch. Let's see, where's my slot punch? Well, I don't see it. This is a big one. But you can do a small slot punch, say a 3/8 or a 5/16 long by like a 1/16 inch thick, or even a slitting chisel. But you can punch a slit first and then drift that out for your rivet. I like 3/8 rivets. That's what I use. So anyway, if you don't have a lot of meat there, slit and drift for your rivet hole. So the hammer I use is a 1 kilogram. This is like a petting house factory made hammer, which is ridiculous that I'm using a factory made hammer. But 1 kilo is 2.2 pounds. So it's about 2¼ pounds. I know this is a huge debate with people about the weight of hammers. Let's just say this, for the work that I do, I believe that 2¼ to 2½ pound hammer is about right. For the style of work that I do and the style of working that I do. I'm not going to get into all of that right now because I want to make progress on these tongs. But sometimes, so the heavier the hammer is, the slower it's going to be, to an extent. Thank you. The slower, you can't repeat hammer blows as fast. Sometimes you want all the power in a single blow or in a few blows that you can get. Totally understandable. And, when we're talking about just like a drawing out contest, a guy with a 4-pound rounding hammer could beat me every time. But for a lot of work and a lot of the kind of work I do, I don't need all the power out of a swing that I can get. What I need is to be able to hit really quickly. Like nails are an extreme example, but they're a good example because you're just hitting like 1/4 inch stock. You don't need a lot of power to draw the nail shank out. What you need in order to get that nail done as quickly as possible is you need to be able to hit quickly and accurately. And you need quick time between hits. You need the most hits per minute you can get, basically. And so a lighter hammer is faster for some things. It's obviously not appropriate for all work, but when I first started out, I used a 3¼ pound hammer, and then I went to 2 3/4, and I always looked really skeptically at a lot of all the old blacksmithing books and texts from 100 years ago and back. So there's not many of them from much further back. Talk about using a 2 to 2½ pound hammer. And I didn't get that until I did traditional style work for a long time. I didn't get it. And until I tried lighter hammers, forced myself to use them and get used to them, I didn't really buy it. Alright, here we are. We're going to draw this out a bit. I should do this over the horn. so the length here between your flag and wherever you're going to make the bend for the corner where the rivet goes is going to determine how big your hoop is. But for most smaller sizes, you know, 3/4 and down, I would say that length needs to be no more than about 3 inches, which is about what I've got. So I'm going to stop there. I'm not going to draw it out any further. I'm not going to taper it back any further. So this length right here, that length right there, here it's full width. And that length is, it's about 2.5 to 3 inches back to here. So that's good enough. And so the next thing will be to make our corner. And yeah, so I'm gonna do that next. And I'm not making these, well, actually, you know what? I'm gonna take one more heat and I'm gonna chamfer things up, just try to pretty it up a little bit, but totally unnecessary. Working really slow here. Let's see, what have we got here? I'm looking through the comments. Yeah, and I use a 1-pound hammer. Almost never grab a 1-pound hammer unless I'm doing cold work. It's good for cold work, cold riveting, stuff like that. Riveting, straightening, stuff like that. I use a 1-pound hammer most often to straighten nails and do cold rivets. And very, very seldomly for, you know, some really super small, delicate piece of hot work. Normally not forging, but like, you know, curling or something like that. But most of that I do with my regular size hammer. Sometimes when I'm forging nail rods, 1/4-inch rod, welding 1/4-inch rod together, sometimes I feel like using the lighter hammer. So. I'm thinking these are going to come out just too stinking big for 1/4-inch tongs. So I'm probably going to make them into 5/8 because that's another size that I currently need. I've already got 1/2-inch tongs and 3/8 and 3/4 and 1 inch. I need 5/8 and 1/4-inch. These are just going to be too big for 1/4-inch. I'm gonna have to do the 1/4-inch ones when I can really think about it, because they just need to be a lot smaller than what I'm used to making. All right, so we're just going to clean this up a little bit. I'm going to chamfer. And then I'm going to clean up the flats. Clean this up just a hair. All right, so there's what we've got. We're at about, I need a pointer. Let's see, this will work. So we're at about 1/2 inch thick here, 1/2 inch by 3/8. That's the cross section. 1/2 inch by 3/8. It's 3/8 all the way down. The flag is roughly 7/8 square, except it's not square. I don't know if you can see that, but it's very important that that not be completely square for the shape I'm going for. But it's about 7/8 deep this way, which is really important. It's only about 3/4 across here, which is totally fine. I really like that. So now the next thing to do is to make the corner. And you want to make sure that you think about this so that you don't make the corner the wrong way. And I haven't thought about this enough to figure out, does it matter if you're wanting to make left-handed tongs versus right-handed tongs? If you don't know the difference between left-handed tongs and right-handed tongs, that's determined by, when you look at the tongs, which side, the rein that's on top, when you look at the tongs, the rein that's on top, which side the rein is on, the top rein, determines whether they're right or left-handed tongs. A lot of people don't give a crap. They don't care. It's not a big deal to them. Me personally, I like the way they feel, and I like the way they feel to have them all the same. And I also like it that they all sit in the tong rack at the same angle, and they're not like weird to each other. They're all just lined up in the rack. Maybe that's silly, but that's what I like. So with these tongs, these are made wrong, in my opinion. You can't really, let's see. So this does not show up on the camera right, I don't think. But when I look at these, yeah, it's reversed. When I look at these, this is on my right. When I look down at them, this rein is on the right, and this one is on the left. And the way I like my tongs is for a right-handed smith, it's best for the tongs to have the, you know what? Before I go into this, I better check my other tongs and make sure. No, this is right. This is right. So anyway, these are right. Never mind. The top tong should be on the right for a right-handed smith. They're technically left-handed tongs, therefore the left hand. They just, because of the way the offset is, it makes them sit in the hand real nice. So anyway, all right. Now that I made that as confusing as I possibly could, I'm going to look at this for a minute and figure out exactly where I want my corner to be. And I'm going to go ahead, I think I'll actually go ahead and make a mark. Make a center punch mark. And I am going to do a set down. Yeah, clear as mud. I know, it was. But basically, if you're right-handed, the top rein should be on your right. Top as in, goes down this way on the top. Here, we'll look at a regular pair of tongs. Here we go. These are a little bit more traditional looking. The top rein should be on the right, and the bottom rein should be on the left for a right-handed smith. Anyway, my opinion. Tradition. Okay, so I am going to do a set down on this merely to help facilitate making the corner. So, let's see, a piece of soapstone and a piece of sheet metal. When you can do it, sometimes when you are making an upset corner, you want the stock to be the same on each side of the corner, and in that case, you can't do a set down, usually. But there are many, many instances where you want a fairly sharp corner that you can do a set down, and it makes it go much easier. So here's what I mean. Here's the bar. Here's the bar that you want to make a sharp corner in. If you can make a set down, if you can, here, this is not big enough. We'll flip it around. Okay, here, we'll do this bigger. All right, bar. If you can make a set down like that, when you bend this over and hammer this out, this point here becomes the outside of the corner. Makes things so much easier. So when this is done, it looks like this. It looks like that. I don't know if that makes sense, but it really, really helps whenever you can make a set down to be able to do that. So in this case, this works out perfectly. I want this area where the rivet's going to go in the tongs, actually not there, here. I want that area thicker than I want the rein itself. This is a little exaggerated. It won't look that wonky or disproportionate. But I want the tong rein to be thinner. So this works out perfect. And this does not have to be sharp. It can be rounded like that. Yeah, fun stuff. And I'm going to check my comments this way. Top rein is toward the hand. Yeah, something like that. Just catching up with comments here. No, my barn door is not open. I just am too cheap to quit wearing the pants I bought years ago. See, it's this line right here is still higher than you guys' jeans. So I'm using these are old-fashioned high-waisted trousers. The waist is over my belly button. But anyway, they've just gotten a little. This is a pair I bought quite a few years ago, and they're just a little tight on me now. So I have other pairs that fit perfectly, but these I've got them loosened up a little bit. This is y'all will get a kick out of this. Here I am unbuttoning my pants on live camera. This is what I use to button them together. Because I'm not using the regular button. And that little doohickey, this is from my Civil War reenacting days. That little doohickey, I call it a double button, but it is a piece of hardware for a Civil War officer's sword belt. Anyway, but it works perfect for this. Just to hold them, give me a little extra adjustment there. But no, my barn door ain't open. It's buttoned up most of the way. All right, let's get back to the tongs. They're on the floor and getting cold. So, because I'm going to do this set down, I don't need to make a mark. Because what I'll do is I'll eyeball, and I can use dividers. Anytime I don't need to put a mark in the metal with a chisel or a center punch, I'd rather not. So anytime I don't need to, that's great. Dividers or compasses, whatever you want to call them, are super handy for holding a measurement, and it's often quicker to use that than it is to look for a punch mark on hot metal. So my taper ends here, so I want to come back probably about an inch behind that to make my set down. So I'm going to set my dividers right about there, and I could probably eyeball that while hot, but I'm just going to set my dividers to this. And now, but this is what I was talking about. You need to make real sure you put this set down on the correct side of the bar for the flag. So, flag is going to get bent around. The flag is going like that. Here we go. The flag is going like that. So it gets bent around like so. So my set down needs to be from this side of the bar. So the flag for for a pair of left-handed tongs for a right-handed smith, the flag should go to your left. So the flag should be up as you make the set down. Clear as mud again, I know, but this stuff helps. You may have to go back and watch it again, but it helps. Okay, so I've got my dividers. I'm going to lay these on the anvil, and I'm going to get this screaming hot and see if I can't make that corner in one heat. So that's the set down and the corner. We'll see. So, I need to forge a pair of these tongs in real time, not on camera, so I can figure out exactly how fast I can do it. But I promise you, this is a fairly, once you've like mastered some of the basics, not mastered, may not be the right term, but once you've gotten a good grasp on some of the basics of hand forging, this is a pretty easy style of tongs to make, especially if you can start with, say, 1/2 by 3/4 flat bar, or 1/2 by 1 inch, depending on the size of tongs you want to make. Probably 1/2 by 1 inch for most sizes, but 1/2 by 3/4 would be perfect, and really 3/8 by 3/4 probably is what I need for a smaller, like 1/4 inch, maybe even 3/8 size tongs. So I wanted to show these real quick. This is what I would consider an average sized pair of tongs in my shop. These are not very well made. I made them, but the starting stock was 3/4 inches square, and the bosses are about 1 inch plus width and about 3/8 thick. So, but and like I said, 3/4 inch square, that's a good stock to make those out of. The reins should be 7/16. I personally have come to the place where I like round reins. From here back, I like them to be mostly round, and slightly heavier than 3/8 is a good size. This is a pair of antique tongs. I'm trying to see. One side of these I've worked on, the other side I have not. But this is a pair of antique tongs. They're a little bit thin in here, but these are a great size. They're too light for some work, but for a lot of work, these little light tongs are just the bomb. And they're smaller. Here you can see how much smaller they are, and they're quite a bit lighter. And this size you could easily make out of 5/8 square, and just that difference in size is going to make a world of difference in how easy they are to forge. And yeah, tongs shouldn't be a lot heavier than necessary in my opinion. Which I say that, and I'm making a really heavy pair of tongs. But all right, we are hot, but not hot enough. Again, I want this screaming hot. So I'm going to set this down, but it's not going to be a big set down. It's going to be, I'll set it down to about, probably 5/8, from the 7/8 to 5/8 maybe. Because as I make that corner, as I clean up the corner, as I dress things out, it'll get thinner. I don't want it to wind up too light there. Alright. Really loud engine in the background. I hope it doesn't mess us up. Alright, I'm going to set these over here where they're still in reach and try to figure out what I did with my hammer. Here it is. Alright, so flag up. And my set down is going to be right there. It can be a good idea when you're doing an upset corner. It can be a good idea to, when you're doing a set down for an upset corner, it's a good idea to use a fairly rounded edge for that set down. Leaves you a little bit more material. Okay, so it's definitely not going to be one heat. We're going to get that hotter. To make that corner, it needs to be really, really, really hot. We want to avoid messing things up and creating cold shuts, stress cracks, and all of that. Basically, the hotter it is, the better I like it. And I'm going to quench off in front of the, I'm going to quench off a lot of the metal in front of the set down to isolate the heat so it's not flopping all over on me and bending. Put a little more coal up here. This is the same deal, same kind of corner as we made when we were making the flag. Somebody got hurt. Alright, so there's what the first heat did. I'm going to take another heat and I'm going to push this back in and work on that corner a little bit more. It's nice if you can get a nice sharp corner on the outside, but not have the corner be too sharp on the inside. But right now is where you want to be really, really careful because the inside of the corner is a place where stress cracks can form. And so just keeping it in compression, hopefully not having to open it back up at all, and keeping it really, really hot while you forge it are all good things. Oh yeah, here we go. All right. All right, I'm going to take this, use this corner right here. Well, that's not going to work. I need a place, maybe now is the time to use the block. I want to clean up my chamfer a little bit. Yep, there we go. Totally unnecessary little, oh, I could have done it this way. All right. So this is perfectly good for a pair of tongs. Does not have to be a complete 90-degree corner, although it would work. So this might look weak to you right here, but I promise it's not. It is well over 1/2 inch wide and then the full 3/8 thick. So this right here is perfectly acceptable for 1/2 of the tongs. You just need to remember that your rivet is going to go right here, and you need plenty of material around that rivet. So, normally, I would not draw out the reins out for a pair of tongs out of 3/4 inch round. I would find it easier to cut this off. I would flatten a little bit more of it out, or anyway, dress it up to maybe 1/2 inch square, coming down a little ways, and about 4 inches back total. I would dress it and scarf it, cut it off and scarf it for a forge weld, and then forge weld a piece of 7/16 round bar on for the reins. So normally I wouldn't do anything else with this until after that forge weld was done. So instead of, but today I don't want to take the time to do that forge weld. Well, maybe I should. This is a good, I was trying to save time for the sake of the demo, but maybe I should just go ahead and do that forge weld. So let me get this prepared. We're going to take a heat in this area and get this prepared for the weld. Now, what I learned some of my very, very limited tong making knowledge from Mark Asbury. And Mark, yeah, I wasn't, so James, what I was talking about doing was not show, I'm not going to finish these tongs today because I'm not going to do both halves on camera. So I was talking about just skipping the reins completely and just showing y'all how to finish the bit, because that's the important part. But I'm just gonna go ahead and do the forge weld anyway. But I learned a lot of my very limited tong making knowledge, not this style of tongs, but from Mark Asbury, and Mark's really good at making tongs. What was I gonna say? Oh, so Mark uses 1/2 inch round for his reins and then draws them out. And I think personally, like if 1/2 inch is all you've got, that's a great way to go. I'm just too lazy to do that. I'd rather use a piece of 7/16 and basically just not mess with it. That kind of goes against the grain a little bit for me, because I generally like to see the factory stock in any of my projects just disappear, like not have any of the factory round stock left. But for tongs, I'm totally fine with it. So, and I really like a round rein. So anyway, but one of the things Mark did that was a great idea is he figured out how much round stock he needed to forge weld on to his tong bits, his blanks, which that's what this is at this point. It's a blank. And he would forge weld, he figured out how much he needed roughly for both halves of the tongs. And he would cut that in one piece, forge weld a jaw on each end, and then finish the reins up, completely, and then measure out, measure to center and cut it apart. And that way, the the reins would be exactly the same length. There'd be no need to trim either side. So that's a real good way to go. And I'm going to roughly try to guesstimate and do the same thing with my 7/16. So here I've got a piece of 7/16. This is unfortunately unknown steel, so hopefully it'll work out okay for me. It is actually the sucker rod out of a freeze-proof spigot. It's fairly soft. Pretty sure it's mild steel. I think it'll work just fine, but we'll see. So I like a tong rein. For most tongs, I like something about 15 to 16 inches long, max. Some people probably like them longer. So I'm gonna estimate. Well, I'll tell you what. I'll do this after I get this scarfed out. I'll cut my rod after I get that scarfed out. That way, I'll be able to better estimate how much rod I need. You can buy 7/16 rod. I just haven't gotten around to doing it. Okay, let's see what people are saying. Yep. Hey, we've still got 20 people here. I can't believe all are hanging around so long. It's like watching paint dry. It's going to be really cool, though, once you see this finished. Like I said, with practice, these go really, really fast. And I haven't had a lot of practice yet. But the last pair I made a whole bunch of mistakes, which drew the process out longer, no pun intended. But it was still a lot easier than, except for the mistakes, it was a lot easier than I expected it to be. So one thing I want to make sure to do is when I cut this off and I go to scarf for the forge weld, I want to if I cut from the right direction, I'll have already formed the slope for my scarf. It's evening in the Netherlands. Have all the time in the world. On that side of the world, anyway. It is early afternoon here. Mid-afternoon. I'm not sure what time it is right now. I'm guessing it's about 2:30 to 3 o'clock. I might be shocked and appalled if I'm able to. Alright. So here's what we're going to do. I'm going to forge this down like this. This is way more material than I need for the forge weld. But better to leave yourself too much than too little, as if you have too much and your weld fails, you can cut it off and start over. You just don't want to leave yourself too much, because that defeats the purpose of forge welding the reins on in the first place. Alright, so brought this down to about 3/8 thick or so. Now I'm going to cut right here. And I'm going to get that hotter. I have had a lot of failed drop tong welds like this recently. So, don't laugh too hard if I embarrass myself sorely on camera. We'll see. And there we are. So I made this, I could have done it this way where it would hang over the anvil like that. That probably would have been the smartest thing to do. But I purposely made it on that axis so that I could simply lay the piece on the anvil like that and stick my reins down on top. So, but I have tons of meat there, so much so that it may be kind of interesting to weld the smaller 7/16 onto, and I'm definitely going to spend a little bit of time upsetting the first couple inches of the 7/16. So I have plenty of meat to work with, working it down and blending the weld in. But there we are. So this is what I would call a blank. So the next step, oh, and I'll also add that if I was not doing a demo, I would just make up at least a pair of blanks and make one to match the other before I moved on to anything else. But I'm going to skip I am going to skip that step and go straight to welding the rod on. Thank you, Joey. I'm glad I'm not crazy. Well, let's not address that. But and I'm proud to have Joey watching. I hope we get to forge together sometime. I've looked up to Joey and his work for quite some time. All right, so we'll take our 7/16 rod here and get the end good. Oh, so now I could actually go ahead. And cut my 7/16 rod. So let's do that. As I look at, there's the stupid sawmill again. As I look at this, I left a ton of material there. Again, it kind of defeats a little bit of the purpose of welding the reins on because there's still quite a bit to draw out. But as I look at that, I'm going to guess, so there's about 3.5 inches of length here. But I'm going to guess that once that's drawn out completely, I'll add at least another 1.5 inches to length. So, I'm going to say that's going to be 5 inches long. And so I need about 10 inches of rod. And so I'm going to double that. Actually, I'll add an inch just to be safe. So I'm going to cut this off at 21 inches. That should give me enough material for not only this rein, but for the rein for the other half of the tongs, which later on, when I get the other blank made, I'll weld it onto the other end. So, I wish I had a cold cut. I have not made myself, I really need to do this, I've not made myself a cold cut Hardy, and it would be really, really nice to have. But I don't have one currently, so a cold chisel it is. So, 21 inches is about right there. So I'm just going to score it. This would be much easier with a cold cut Hardy. Or a helper with a sledge, because I do have a handled cold cut. Alright, probably can get it to break now. We'll do this the cheating way. There we go. Alright, that's a little bit more manageable. Perfect. I'm going back to look at Joey's comments. Yes. Yes, Joey, that's what I was just talking about upsetting, making sure I upset a couple of inches of this pretty thoroughly. But good point. So, next is a very upsetting process. At this point, also, so I've got a couple of heats in front of me as I prepare for this weld, and I really need to be careful to build my fire up if it's not already, which it's not. I need to be careful to build my fire up so that I have a good sized fire, clean fire with lots of coke when it comes time to make the weld. I'm going to kind of bank up the hole around it. Pull the coke into the center. Whew, okay, that got hot. Now, this is usually, it's easier to upset a shorter heat. So usually I would isolate the heat more before upsetting. But this time I want to allow plenty of material, as Joey said, for scaling. So I am working with a longer heat, which is more aggravating, but I'm upsetting a longer area. So I don't know if you can see this. This is 7/16. This is over a ½ an inch in diameter now. I'm going to take one more short heat and upset it a little bit more. See if anybody had any tips, tricks, or criticism. Yes, not only the scarf upset, but also behind the upset for the scarf. Yeah, I'm trying to upset it a couple of inches back. Normally I would, if your pieces are similar in size, I wouldn't upset more than an inch and a half. An inch to an inch and a half, probably. So, as Joey pointed out, because I want the upset to extend up the rein a little ways, I want a longer area upset. I'm going to quench off the very end for this upsetting heat. I'm sure I'm driving Joey nuts with this because he's a lot better at this sort of thing than I am. One of those times when you just want to be able to jump through the screen and show somebody how it's done. That's a pretty thick upset. Now we'll do the end, the very end, a little bit more and make the scarf. How did I do, Joey? All right. So now, let's get this piece hot. I am not going to bother stepping the scarves. And I know that's kind of taboo, but I don't know. I don't feel like it. Maybe that'll come back to haunt me, but we'll see. Threw something in the quench tank. My handy dandy little flux box. I don't know what this tin was originally, but it works great. Keeps it sealed well enough to keep some of the keeps the humidity out of the borax. So this piece, it's not as hot as it looks, but I'm going to get it hot and then flux it. This piece is going to sit just like that. And that was not a very good dry run. But I'm going to take it out and I'm going to place it on the anvil like so. And then we're going to lay the second piece on it and hit it. And hopefully it'll stick the first time. Flux is just plain borax. The only thing I'm kind of nervous about is I really don't have a good pair of tongs to hold the section that I'm going to be running with tongs. But flat bits might be better than the bits I'm playing with right now, so we'll try that. Yeah. Good grief. One of the kids just blew a party whistle. Alright. Now, I've got one piece fluxed. I'm going to flux the second. Hey, no noise makers. Alright, both pieces are in the fire. And we are working towards a welding heat. I'll put a little bit more flux on this first piece. I think this is the first time I've attempted a forge weld on live camera, so 99% chance it'll go wrong. I'm gonna, because my pieces are a little bit different size and stuff like that, I'm gonna bring it to welding heat fairly slowly to try to get a thorough soaking even heat in both pieces. We shall see. Alright, I'm about ready to check it. If it's not right, it's going back in the fire. A little bit longer scarf than necessary, but I felt really, really good about that. Go back in the fire and get a really thorough heat. I overlapped because I didn't step the scarf like Joey was asking about. I overlapped a little bit more than necessary, but just a little bit. But I felt really, really good about the heat. So it was really super sticky, very hot. I think it will take just fine. And I have a lot of material to work down into blending the weld nicely. I'd like to say that once it's stuck, you're good, but not always true. I've had them stick and then come apart on me later. Oh. Taking a while to come back up to heat. I kind of smothered my fire a little bit. Right there. For me, learning to forge weld, like a lot of it is in learning what the metal should look like and all of that, and in the proper heat. But a lot of it is also learning your fire and learning your forge and learning exactly where the hottest part of the fire is going to be. So like it can be really, really critical that you get, you know, the area to be welded right in the hottest part. Because if it's off a little ways, you might burn a smaller section of your work next to the weld and not get the weld hot. Okay, I still have tons to work down. The weld area is about 3/4 round, so it's enormous. I'm going to clean and reflux the weld right around the scarves. I think I got the ends of the scarves tacked down pretty well, but I would really love it if they blended in nicely. So a little flux. I'm a little shaky at this point. A little flux will help blend that weld together. Fire is recovering. So this is all taking me way longer than it should, but with practice, making tongs this way is often a lot faster than drawing the rein out of the bigger stock, like the 3/4 round. Especially if you don't have a power hammer or a really good helper. So let's see here. Yep. Yeah, the scarves were way too big on that. Like I said, I overlapped too much. But at least I have enough meat that as I work it down, I should have a good chance of blending that weld pretty well. Another advantage, and this should be a moot point if your forge weld is good enough, but another advantage of doing the weld with the tong bit laying sideways is now that weld seam, when the tongs are in use, the weld seam is in a shear plane instead of being stressed this way. And if your weld is not the greatest, that can make the difference between it breaking or not. A little hot. Yeah, boy. The weld is almost invisible. So now I just need to draw that out and clean it up. Let me see here. So, I'm not sure I'm following you, Joey, about forging on the edge of the anvil. I'm purposely, I'm assuming I'm just not understanding you correctly, but I'm purposely creating dents because I'm using the edge to draw the material out. It's way oversized at this point. So I use the edge. I have a really worn anvil, and I use the edge a lot to rough things down to close to dimension, and then I clean them up on the flat of the anvil. So I'm probably just misunderstanding. I know it's hard to see like what exactly is going on and what size I'm working with. So I want, because I'm transitioning from a rectangular cross section to a round cross section, I want a little bit of this to be rectangular. Oh, I see what you're saying. You're talking about working on the near edge of the anvil as opposed to the far edge, I think. But anyway, so I'm transitioning from rectangular to what's going to be round, not squished like these. And so I'm going to gradually transition from rectangular and 3/8 thick to square and about 7/16 square, because my stock is 7/16. And then from there I'll go to octagon and round to blend it into my 7/16 round. Joey, you'll just have to forgive me because I'm a very, very slow learner. If one of your videos that you can get to easily shows what you're talking about, I'd love to see it. I'm sure I've developed a lot of bad habits already. On the far, okay, I'm getting it. Yep, I know exactly what you're saying. I have not practiced that enough and made enough of a habit out of it, so I need to work on that. Man, that twists so easy with that weight hanging weird like that. At this point, I'm just going slow because this is there's not a lot needs to be done. Alright, one more heat for sizing purposes in this area, and we will work our transition in. Almost to heat. Howdy, howdy, Roy. And Joey, you are totally right. And I'll work on it. I promise. Oh, that's fun how that just twists all over the place. Alright. Now it's time to go to round this up a little bit. Very interesting working. Ooh, my scarf did not weld perfectly. Beautiful. Not cool, but it'll be alright. You can see right here, I managed to not nail that scarf down just right. But fortunately, it doesn't look like, it looks like it's very, very superficial. So hopefully it doesn't go down too deep. Meet Joey here to show us how it's done. Really, really enjoy Joey's stuff, which reminds me, I don't watch a ton of YouTube, and I am a few Joey Vandersteeg videos behind, so I need to go see what's new. I agree with you about seeing the material light up, Joey, but in this case, I would argue that I'm just trying to go a little slower on purpose to like finish up. Like I'm not moving very fast because I don't want to go too far, if that makes sense. But I'm not as practiced, I'm sure, in drawing out. All right, so I'm going to go to about right there. And, ooh, that was dumb. I should have done it from this side. It's okay. The reins are twisted on me. I know this is painful to watch. Alright, so right there, I don't know if you can see it very well. Right there's done. I've tried to do a stopped chamfer that will wind up on the outside of the reins. And then I need to clean this section up, and this will be done. I might throw a little bit of magic dust on this scarf here and see if I can just blend that in with a little bitty hammer a little bit. This is probably not going to do anything structural. Probably going to help structurally, but might help the way it looks. know if Joey's still here, but one day I dream of hopefully making a pair of tongs, Smith and Striker style, with Joey. It's a dream of mine. Hopefully it'll happen sometime. I think this is my personal opinion, and it might be, I don't mean any offense by it, but I think there's a big difference between making horseshoes and making some other styles of things. And so, for me, I draw out over the horn. I do use the horn to draw out quite a bit when I need a gentler, more gradual result, I guess. But I find drawing out over the edge is a lot faster when you need to move more material quicker. Besides, at one point or another, horns on anvils weren't very common. Working a little Iron Mountain flux into the area where my scarf was having issues. This is really kind of annoying because this really awkward offset weight of the bit causes this really small section to twist and bend as I'm moving around and hammering. So that's one of the annoying things at play here with this process. Alright, I am digging this. Big time. Well, the Iron Mountain may not have improved the integrity of that forge weld any, but it certainly made it look better. For anybody criticizing my posture, you're right. Alright. I think I'm about done messing with it. Someone told me once, forging is fast, tweaking is forever. Alright, we're going to leave that alone. It's mostly straight, mostly smooth. Well, I say we're going to leave that alone while I'm hitting on it. I can live with that. Definitely not the prettiest in the world. Some serious wire brush at a higher heat would give me a prettier look, but I don't think I'm going to bother. Alright, there's no thin looking spots. What I am going to do is I'm going to take one final heat in this corner area to clean that up just a little bit. Just a little bit. So we're going to cool this off. Throwing everything on the floor. We're getting close to the fun part, guys. This is ridiculous. 2 hours for 1/2 of a set of tongs. Yeah, we are getting real close to the 2-hour mark. Told you I'm not a tong maker. The question is, what are really cool people like Joey doing watching some goonball like me stumble through 2 hours of on one side of a set of tongs? I appreciate each and every one of you that are sticking with me. Alright, we're just going to pretty this up a little bit. So here's what I'm doing. I'm going to rest this. Just cleaning it up just a hair. Yeah, boy. All right. Now, it is time. Good attitude, Joey, for sure, but I don't think you're going to learn anything from me. All right, so now it's time to bend this around. We're going to bend it around to the rough split rein technique. So this shouldn't take me near as long. The weld, I don't think really took up that much time. Most of my time, the reason this is taking 2 hours is because I've spent probably half of it talking. But anyway, I don't think the split rein technique is faster unless you have a striker. But anyway, I know guys that can do forge welded tongs like this in just like 4 or 5 heats per side. So there is that. So now I'm going to bend this and then punch the hole for the rivet. And then the final step will be splitting the bit. So and I'll make the other half of these, the other half, and not today, but I will make that other half, and then I'll do another live where I finish, assemble, and fit the tongs. So that just seems like something I have to do. So anyway, let me go ahead and bend this, and then we will punch the hole and split the bit. So let me just say, one of the things that I like about this style of tongs is basically with all my tongs, I try, whether they're flat bit or they are a box jaw or they're bolt jaw, I try to make sure that if I were to upset a piece of material that I was holding in the tongs, like this, holding a piece of material and I'm hitting the end of it in an upsetting heat, I want that material to have a straight, a place to rest. And you see a lot of people make bolt jaw tongs that they don't have a flat spot here in the bottom of the jaws. They come together at kind of an angle, and that's totally fine. I'm not bashing anybody's tongs, but for me, what I don't like about that is if you're upsetting and your tongs come together like that, then it loosens it's fighting your grip. It kind of loosens the reins with every blow, and the material doesn't have a place to come to rest. So that's one of the things I like about a style of bolt jaw tongs that has basically a flat spot down here in the bottom, is that right there. So anyway, just a preference thing, but that's what really appeals to me about these industrial or semi-industrial style tongs. All right, let's get this hot the rest of the way and get it bent. So I'm going to be just roughly bending the jaw to shape. It's not going to be totally finished, but it will be on its way. And I'm going to have to quench off the reins. I need to try the cleft weld more, for sure. All right, here we go. Need to be careful with this because you can start a stress crack there in that corner if you're not careful. So anyway, that's going pretty well. I'll probably leave it right there until I get ready to do the fitting, the final fitting. I'll do a little bit more to it. I'm gonna have to be careful to save this measurement and not mess with these until I get the other half of the tongs made. That's really the only critical measurement I need to remember. Let's see what we got here. And David, on box jaw tongs, that is exactly what I like to do as well. All right, close enough. I should have been a little bit more careful to keep this a 90-degree angle right there, but that is close enough for me. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to punch the hole for the rivet. The fun thing about these is, even if you do happen to get, obviously stress cracks can get too bad, but even if you do happen to get a little bit of a stress crack on any of these inside corners, all of those corners are in compression when you're using the tongs. So none of those stress cracks will be stressed further down the road. I do not usually use a drift. I usually just punch. Don't usually use a drift to finish my tong rivet holes, but I'm going to this time, and there are advantages to it. It makes it, if you do it right, then the sides of your hole will be parallel instead of tapered. So that's cool. So for this style of tong, where you want to orient the rivet this way, again, it depends on how much thigh gap you want, but I like to orient it centered over this line, or maybe just a hair over. Just a hair, not even as much as this one. This has more thigh gap than I'd like, but the rivet needs to be close to centered. Like I said, just a little bit off this way is good, of this as your reference point. It's kind of weird because if you're familiar with making other tongs with like a square boss, then making this style makes you feel like you're punching a hole in the jaw. But they're a great style of tong. All right, so just a little bit off center. I need a tong held punch. This is, oh, and I don't have my water can handy either. All right, I'm going to take a second heat on that and drive my drift. You know what? Well, let's see how close it is. Oh, it's real close. I'm going to heat it up just a little bit more before I drive my drift through. If I'd done that right, I would have been able to punch and drift in one heat. I hope not, Joey. Like I said, we're shooting for the appropriate amount of thigh gap so that they sit nice and pretty. Unlike these tongs that come to this comes to a point in there, will always splay out in the rack. And if you like that, fine, but I've got some that do that really badly. Alright, that's hot enough to drift. If you want to be real picky, clean it up and run the drift through a couple of times. And my drift is upset just a little bit. So it's a little over 3/8, just a hair over. It's also going through cooking. But it's a hair over 3/8 thick, so that, because metal contracts, and this will contract as it cools, so the hole will get smaller. And then the rivet stock, if I use factory 3/8 stock for my rivet, the rivet stock will expand as it heats up. And between those two things, if you just made a drift out of 3/8 stock and it's cold, it's not going to make the hole big enough, and a hot rivet will not go through. So your drift needs to be appropriately bumped up a little bit in size. A 32nd of an inch would probably not be too much. All right. That is one side ready to split the bit, and then it'll be completely finished. I haven't marked a pair of tongs yet, but maybe I should mark. Maybe I'll mark the other side. All right, so now it's time to move you to the vise. 9:22. I'm almost done. It's like the last or second to last heat. So, let's see. Set the tripod up here. I may have to bring it up. Yeah, there we go. All right. We're over here at the vise. So, what I'm going to do, and this is the step that I usually screw up. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to find me a little piece of 1/4 inch flat stock. Doesn't have to be a big piece. And ideally, if I wanted to be if I was doing this right, I would round over. I'd file over one edge. Well, why don't I just do that? File over one edge a little bit. Round it over. Just to avoid making too sharp an inside corner. All right, that's good. So 1/4 inch flat stock. We're going to stick it right here. And we are ready to split the bit. And I'm going to use this handled hot cut. This should be the last heat. If it's not the last heat, it'll be the second last heat. I'll probably take 2 heats to split it, so I'll try not to mess it up. All right, so into the vise we go. I want to support it really well. Bump that piece in, and we're going to split it right down the center. I'm going to start the split, and then I need to make sure to keep it going down straight. Beautiful. All right. So check that out. Not perfect, but that's pretty right there. So next time I will, it'll be much shorter. I'm going to make up the other side of the tongs when I have time. And then on the next stream, I will rivet the two pieces together and show how I fit the bit.